Brad Meltzer.
I love the music.
Of course you do. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I missed you.
I miss you too. Hey, can I be upset with you for 1 second?
Always.
Why is it? So I read I Am Temple Grandin. Why? I want to be upset with you because I feel like this book should have been done long ago.
It really is. The reception, the book's out like one day, and I have more people telling me that they're sobbing with their children who are telling them, Mom and Dad, I feel finally it's okay to be different. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why didn't I start with this book?
I was, and I think back to all of the I Am books that you've done, and all of the stories are great. And I mean, and I feel like we've talked about, if not all of them, most of them, from leaders and sports stars and musicians and artists. This is unbelievable. It really, and I get why people are crying. I get why for a number of reasons crying. But this may be the best one in the series, Brad.
I said to my wife, I think beside the Anne Frank one, I think it's the most important one we've ever done. And the truth is, it's because we're not that smart. I mean, the reason we started looking at it is a couple of years ago, our artist, Chris Eliopoulos, we had done I Am Albert Einstein.
Right.
And Albert Einstein opens up with, ever been called weird or different? And we would write, and, if you come to the book signs, I write in it, stay different. And, stay weird. And Chris writes in someone's book, stay weird. And the family, again, starts sobbing. The mother starts sobbing. And Chris is like, you okay? And she says, no, it's okay. She's like, I'm on the spectrum. My son's on the spectrum. We're all on the spectrum in my house. And our family motto is stay weird. So thank you. And we just thought, okay, that's good. And then we started realizing this woman wasn't the only person saying that to us. And we had all these people who are on the spectrum saying, where's our hero? And eventually, the reason it finally came around is we had so many people saying, can you do one for us? And if you're on the spectrum, if you have a person with autism, and we actually listen. And for once, as always, our readers prove that they're smarter than we are. And that's where Temple Grandin came from for us.
And I think the other thing that's really beautiful about the book, and we'll get into it a little bit, and I don't know, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know why I feel this way, but the fact that she's alive, the fact that she has read the book, she's got a quote right on the cover. There's something added about the fact that she is alive and was a participant in kind of the work that you and Chris did. I don't know why I feel like that's really important here.
I don't know. The thing that's really wild about it, first of all, we had Billie Jean King help us with her book. We had Jane Goodall help with ours. But if we mess up George Washington, what's he going to do? Right?
Good point.
Right. But you mess up, Temple Grandin, when I got on the phone with her, she's on the autism spectrum. Nobody told me more quickly and succinctly what details she wanted changed in the book than she did. What was wrong with the book than her. She was so fun because she's just unapologetically herself. And I spoke to her actually this week. She sent us a picture of her with the book. You'll see it'll pop up on our social media today. And it's just so funny because she's like, I'm not smiling. I'm not even looking at the camera. I don't care. Take your picture, whatever you want. And I love the fact that when you have the person who's alive, what we do with George Washington, when we do I Am Abraham Lincoln, America takes whatever their lives were and we turn them into these legends and myths. But Temple Grandin's walking around today. You can go to her website and email her. You can go watch her lecture. It just shows your kid, this is not some crazy dream.
Right.
This is no fever dream. This is today. It's now. And get ready because life is here. And I love the fact that she, gave us a quote for the book that says how much she enjoyed it. That's banana. When we get that quote, all of us are like, what? It blows us away.
She talks about how in the book, listen, it's the same way that parents today would find out or come to maybe understand that their child is on the spectrum and is autistic. But she talks about, like, when she was young, she wouldn't look into people's eyes. When she was young, she didn't want to cuddle. She wanted to, like, push away. She talks about how when she was young, she didn't talk at the same age that everybody else did. She talks about how when she was young, she would climb underneath the cushions in the sofa because it felt really secure. And ultimately, like, as she grows up, she just tells you, my brain doesn't work the same way that everybody else's does, but nobody understands me. And in some cases, and this is where I think that you guys do a really good job, you and Chris, and you more so because you didn't just draw pictures, but where it is like you walk people, and those people could be adults, those people could be kids who it's not a family. You're not dealing with a sibling or a child on the spectrum, but it may be somebody that you're around for the first time, a classmate, somebody in the neighborhood. And whether it's an adult or a child, you kind of walk them through in very easy steps, ways to go, like, yeah, there is something different here, but stop thinking of different as scary. Stop thinking of different as bad. It's just different. And if everything was the same, everything would be so goddamn boring.
Well, that's the core of the book, right? I mean, the whole message of the entire book was that thing you just said, was when we talk about how, her body was stiff, her voice was robotic, she used to cry about this, she used to not look in the eye. And she says, you know what the best part of being different is? Sometimes you have the most original ideas. And when she's a little girl, everyone's making their kite, and everyone builds kind of the same kite, the same way if you said build a paper airplane, we'd all build the same paper airplane. And her kite that she builds is totally different. She bends up these weird flaps on the end. She ties it to her tricycle. It looks like nobody else's kite, but it soars. And man, you don't need to understand metaphor to understand that, like, doing things the same way over and over is not how the world gets changed. The world gets changed through unconventional thinking. And I want my kids to have that message, that it's beautiful to be different. I want my daughter to have that message. I want my sons to have that message. Like, stop thinking it as a negative. And I hate to say it, and I don't want to, obviously, but as someone who grew up, who was like, and again, mine is on the nerdy, weird thing, but like, I knew what it was like to be the weird kid who was different. Like, I was the only kid in school who, like, I was wearing a Batman shirt every day to school, and I only had one, like, and I know that, like, again, I know it's cool now, but I know what it's like to be like, I don't think anyone sees the world like I'm seeing it right now. And again, we all have our differences. We all have our weird things. We all have those things that make us, like, a little bit off to the side. And to me, that if you celebrate that as opposed to telling your kid do it the right way, my God, you've given them a lesson for life. Like, if you take nothing else, and that's why, Temple Grandin is, I'm getting more people who are telling me they're buying it. I had a dear friend said, my 12-year-old read it last night. And we get 30-year-olds reading it. And we have obviously much older and a wider swath because everyone knows what it's like to be called weird or different at some point. I don't care how cool you are.
Sure. And when she gets into that whole thing where she talks about, like, she goes to school, right? Her mom takes her to a school, and she talks about how they were able to teach her the way she learns, as opposed to her feeling lost, not learning the way that is the traditional way of teaching. What a great moment for her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When she gets in there, she won't even, like, say goodbye. Like, she's rigid as a pole. She's standing there, like, arms at her side. And the teachers are like, some teachers would be like, well, I don't know what to do with her. She's weird. Right. And instead, they immediately figure out, they're like, want to come see our horses? And she's like, you got horses? And she loves animals, right? And they figure, and how does and again, this is years ago when no one knew what autism was. There was no name for it back then. But they figure out, oh, you love horses? We're going to figure out how horses interact. We're going to figure out and encourage you, whatever you do. Like, she used to build weird models, like model rockets, and her teachers would, instead of building saying that's not the right way, they would say, I've never seen a model rocket that's been built like that. And they keep going, great. It's wonderful. Keep going. And wow. I mean, and I will tell you, my parents knew nothing about parenting, nothing. But the one thing, whatever my sister and I did, they would always tell us, keep going. If I lit something on fire, if I lit someone on fire, my mom would be like, good fire. Good job. Like, And obviously it's a little delusional, right, from my mother, but boy, it's a great lesson for kids. And Temple Grandin's teachers and her mother figure out you put her in this place where people are telling her yes as opposed to no, and that's rocket fuel.
You talk about how, well, I say you write about where Temple goes to see her aunt in Arizona when she's in high school. And her aunt has this, like this squeeze machine, I guess is what it is for cattle. And Temple gets into it. And she said it's the first time that it was comforting. And so many lessons for her came out of it. But it was also where, like, she starts like this love affair with animals. But is this part true? Well, it has to be true. Half the cattle.
The whole book is true. Of course it's true. I mean, and by the way, this is the craziest part, right? In the best way. Like, her aunt has, in Arizona, they have what they call a squeeze chute. Like, we have to just, for a moment, like, it's basically, imagine like this big contraption that holds an animal as big as a cow in place. Like, it squeezes it from the sides gently so it doesn't move, but you can give the cow medicine. That's why you have this thing. And basically the panel's kind of squeezed shut on the side, and it doesn't crush the cow, but it holds it in place. And everyone else is like, yeah, that's the thing for the animals. And Temple Grandin, as a little girl, is like, can I get in and try that? And again, her aunt's like, yeah, get in the cow machine, right? Which, again, you're like, where's this going? Is this a good idea? But the same way when she was a little girl, she used to hide in the couch cushions.
Right.
So she would feel that security from feeling like there were arms around her. She says in that moment, a wave of relaxation takes over. And it's the first time in her life she ever felt comfortable in her own skin. And that security, I don't care who you are. When you're listening right now, you know that moment when you feel secure and what a difference it is from when you feel scared. And it unlocks the entire universe for her. It makes her kind of be able to love and experience things she never had once you find that security. And again, it all comes from someone saying yes as opposed to saying no, and saying, this is good for you, and you got to find what's best for you.
And when she starts getting like, and then it starts advancing, right? So now, like, she's got this thing with animals. Like, she's great with animals, and like farmers can't figure out why the cows are acting a certain way. And Temple Grandin gets down on her hands and knees and goes, "It's because the sun's in their eyes." Or when they want to walk them through the water. I mean, it's unbelievable. They want to walk them through the water.
Those are the ones where I was like, I could write page out. She has over and over. She's literally getting, she sees the world differently. Right? That's her superpower. And so, like you said, she goes to the farm. The farmers are like, oh, we can't get the cattle to walk down this platform. And she's like, I'm going to go down. She goes on her hands and knees and says, I'm going to look at it from the way the cow is seeing it. And the other farmers are like, this woman's a nut. Like, what are you doing? And she's sitting there like she's a cow and then looking up and going, oh, they're not coming down because the sun's in their eyes. And the other farmer's like, that's nonsense. But the first, there's one farmer who's like, give her a shot. And they build something over the cows so it blocks the sun. And suddenly, guess what happens? All the cows come.
Yeah.
And over, her ability to see the world differently is the thing that, of course, lets her see the things that animals and nobody ever realizes are seeing and doing. And that, to me, is what's incredible, right? She has her purpose is to build things that help these animals and everyone be more gentle and caring. And
that's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. Is this true? Half the cattle in the U.S. and Canada are handled in equipment that she designed to treat animals more humanely. That's true?
That's a crazy... I mean, of course it's true. We put it in the book. The books are nonfiction. We don't make it up and be like, I'm going to pick half. Let's do 3/4. I'm feeling good today. I mean, yeah, of course we go. It's right on our website. You can see it. I mean, that's a sick number. Right? It's a crazy number. And her influence, of all the books we've done, right? And we've done, from John Lewis to Amelia Earhart to Abraham Lincoln and everyone in between. No question, Temple Grandin is the least known person, maybe beside I.M. Pei, but one of the least known people we've ever tackled.
Agreed.
But with one of the biggest outputs and effects on how you're living day to day in ways you don't even realize it. I mean, that's a crazy number of half the animals that today are what she's built. And let's be clear, when she does that kind of hugging machine with the cattle, she starts building her own machines. And she's like, I could build one. And that's what she starts doing and trying to immediately figure out how you can deal more humanely. And with these animals. And, obviously it changes the entire way we look at and deal with animals.
How did you approach her?
The funny part is usually I need some kind of I got to find some amazing connection. Like Jane Goodall had 3 levels of staff before we could get to Jane Goodall, and Billie Jean King, same thing. They're nice as can be. Billie Jean King's become a really nice friend, and we love her. Temple Grandin, go on the website, click the button, and an email came back and you're just like, well, I'm here. What do you want? I'm like, okay, here we go. And it's just and it's all perfectly on brand, right? It's exactly what you want from her. And every email I get from her, every text I get from her, and what, can I just tell you something that I haven't said? I mean, I love this. I said, we usually do Billie Jean King. When we did I Am Billie Jean King, we did a story time together. You can find it on YouTube. She reads the story, and I introduced it, and we've had all these amazing people do amazing story times with us. And I said to Temple Grandin, do you want to do a story time? You'll read the book and I'll introduce you. And she said, no, I once read a book that was about me. I'm very uncomfortable with that. It makes me look too good. She's so humble. She doesn't want to sit there. And I was like, oh man, I love you even more now. I love you. I've just written a book that makes you look, and shows everyone what a genius and amazing you are. And she's like, I don't want my ego to be in there. And she's like, I feel uncomfortable. I don't like it. I'm like, God bless you. I'm going to write another book about you now. It's so good.
But that's what I was going to say. Does she have a concept of, and Brad, I'm telling you, and I don't know. I was thinking back, when would have been the right time to do Temple Grandin? And maybe the right time is now. You know what I mean? Maybe it all lined up for the right reasons. But it is, again, the best one that you've done. I really believe that. Better than Jackie Robinson, who I loved. Does she get a sense of what she means to people who know her story or learn her story?
I don't know. It's that's a different level of empathy that I have not been able to glean from her, because I've never been to an hour-long meal with her where I can figure it out. But she clearly knows why it's important, right? She knows and the reason why this story resonates, at least to me and to you right now, is look at where the world is. Every day we're taking each other apart. We're pointing at people that are different and saying you can't do this, you can't do that, ban that book, that trans kid is problematic. This is everything. Everyone's got a problem with everybody else.
Right.
And here comes this woman with a message that's we all have gifts to give. You share what you have with the world, share the things you love. There's not just one right way. The world's more beautiful for it. And it ends literally, these are the last lines of the book. I'm Temple Grandin, and I'm proud to be different. And pride in that, she knows that message is vital. I don't know if any famous person can ever fully fathom what they truly mean. I mean, even Billie Jean King, who of course is an icon.
Right.
I don't think she ever wakes up and says I got it. I know why I'm so important to people. I don't think anyone can fathom just how meaningful those messages of inclusion can be at a time when the culture is we're dividing ourselves every single moment.
Right. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is because of where we are just as people right now, where, yes, Temple Grandin is autistic. And it is a very important story to have a hero for somebody who's autistic. But it's so beyond autism. It's just about being different.
Oh, no, I can tell you. I'm going to read you. This is a text I got from my dear friend that came last night. Her daughter is not autistic. And it literally said, even 12-year-olds love the Ordinary People books. And the newest one tonight my youngest one came to me crying because she felt so seen. She knows she's quirky and has some social anxiety, and she's not everyone's cup of tea, which is tough when you move. They had just moved. But it was so nice to read about someone who didn't change who she was to fit in. This isn't someone who's autistic. This is someone who just is a young girl who's 12 years old who's just anxious in school. And listen, I can tell you in my family, in my house, nobody in this house can ever, all 3 of my kids have had different points of being, different and feeling whoa, where, I'm out of my element here.
Sure.
And that's where all the books come from, right? It's just my own dealing as a parent and my love for my kids to be how do I arm them with these lessons so they can deal with all the crap life hits them with?
Can I ask you a question about feeling different, but not related to the book?
Oh, this is gonna be a great one. I could tell already.
Did you feel maybe a little odd standing in Italy, taking a selfie with David's penis right above your head?
So, by the way, I did that before my state of Florida said that David's penis was going to be a horrible thing and ruin children. So I take my kids all the way to Italy. My son goes abroad this semester. I'm like, if my kid's going abroad, I'm getting a trip to Italy. I don't care. So we go to Italy. I bring the kids to Italy, take them to see the finest art, the greatest, arguably, sculpture of all time, Michelangelo's David. There it is. We go in. My kids spend a solid 10 minutes taking pictures with his butt and his penis. That's all they want. And not just a picture where they're like, here's my face and here I am, but like pictures where they're making it look small, pictures where they're pointing and laughing, pictures where they're taking their pinky up to show like the scale. Like, and I'm like, and let me just be clear. My wife and I are loving every second of it. Like, we're not stopping it. We're almost encouraging it. We're just like, have at it. Like, and I could say, I don't think, I'm sure that every Italian there was like, here's another dumb American family that's doing this. But we will out selfie anyone. The family hasn't. And I was like, I never want to have the kids who go in to see the David and they're like, I do love the structure. Like if I have those kids, I've done it wrong. Like, I want my kids to always go in and be like, there's a naked dude here and nobody's saying a word.
By the way, you know what the other great picture was of your trip to Italy? And the picture is amazing, Brad. You and your wife, Corey, you guys you took the exact same picture that you took 33 years ago when you guys were kids. You had hair, for God's sakes.
Not only that, what I love about that is I knew we would taken the picture up there, and I remember there was a picture, but I hadn't planned that we were going to do it until we got there. And I was like, we should take that picture. I think, and we took one with me on one side and her on the other because I couldn't even remember what the picture looked like. I'm like, when I go home, I'll see what it was. But the best part is, and again, you can't plan this. My son, in the picture that I took 33 years ago, I'm wearing a Michigan shirt. And I'll send you the family picture. In the one today in the one that we took in Italy just then, it's my son wearing a Michigan shirt. 33 years later, the Meltzer family is unchanged. Like, it's the same clothing. We're literally wearing the same thing, and it's just my son standing there, basically 1 year age difference from when I was there 33 years ago, which is mind-blowing to me.
And I don't mean this with any disrespect. And listen, I love you to death, and I love Corey to death, and the two of you are great together. But when I look at the picture from 33 years ago, I look at her, and then I look at you and go, boy, what was she doing?
Well, first of all, 100% right. Like, there's not a question. And make no mistake, she's not taking it easy on herself either. She's wearing, like, stonewash overalls and like like 5 scrunchies and earrings that are basically like chandeliers. Okay, like paper mache chandeliers. Every trend in the 80s is on my wife at that moment in time. There's like no trend. I will bet my life that there are E.G. Smith socks on her feet. Like, she's got every trend that could possibly be going. And I've literally got a Michigan shirt. And if you look closely, I'm wearing a leather necklace.
Yes, you are.
That you wear in college. And the best part of the necklace is, if you can't see it, but from the back of the necklace is like, it's like a rat tail that comes down with little beads on it, because we thought that would give us sex somehow. Like, this is going to make us sexual. And it's just such a college cliche of like, when you go to college and you're like, I'm going to have a new thing and a new trend nobody's going to have, and this was mine. And it's so on display. So when I take that picture, I'm like, I came home and I'm like, oh, it's us, but completely horribly us.
All right, you want to end there, or you want to end with one serious thing? Up to you.
No, wherever you me, I'll go wherever you want.
All right, so then I'm going to end with one serious thing, because I loved everything about, I love the Nazi conspiracy. I love the whole conspiracy books. I love that they are, I mean, listen, that's not, now I feel like I'm telling you I don't like the novels. The novels are great, and I love those. I love when you do the conspiracy books, because it's history. It's all true, and it's told in a way that if they put those books as textbooks in schools, kids would be fascinated to learn about history because it reads like a novel instead of going in and going like, oh, this is just going to preach to me. But anyway, enough of that. I love the Nazi conspiracy. I thought it was so well done. It was great. There's so many stories in there that I had no idea. Anyway, the picture of you standing with the 2 Holocaust survivors who are holding the book has to be, for what that book is and who you are, that had to be unreal. I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Oh, no. I'm writing. I mean, they bring in these 2 women who are, of course, are Holocaust survivors, and the whole universe stops in that moment for me. Because I've been on a 2-week tour. I've traveled the whole country. I've met every different person who has a story about some grandparent that's in the Holocaust or, great-grandparent that was in the Holocaust. I get a lot of stories. But here were 2 Holocaust survivors coming to the event and being like, we're going to buy the book. I'm like, you can't buy the book. Like, you can't spend money on this book. Like, and they wouldn't take it. They had to get it for themselves. Like, it was gifted to them, of course. Like, but to sit there and then, of course, I said, can I bring them in the back? And we went in the back and they told me their stories of how they survived. One of them telling me that, when the Germans were coming, her parents basically put her with another family who protected her. And this father who, this Christian father looked at her and said, I have 3 daughters and now I have 4. And just said, I'm going to protect her. I'm going to take this girl. And her mother survived. The rest of her family was killed. And I'm sitting here, it's a book about the Nazis.
Right.
And make no mistake, there's no better revenge than being a Jew, writing a book and making money off the Nazis, right? There's no better revenge. And I told the women that. I'm like, I just want you to know, but then to be able to hear those stories firsthand from people who were there, again, one of the most humbling moments of my life. I mean, I've been to, the White House and everywhere in between, but to sit with those 2 women, I will never for the rest of my life. And I've met Holocaust survivors before, but to have them come for the Nazi conspiracy and tell me their versions and their moments was unreal.
And I wouldn't be me if I wasn't. But Brad, how tall are you?
Listen, these little tiny Jewish women.
Thank you.
Look
oh my God, you look like a giant. You're like 5'6".
And that's the thing is, like, if you want to feel tall, find a bubby. Like, you find a bubby. Because I looked at the picture and I was like, that's what it's like to be tall. I mean, they're and my sister's 5 foot. She's teeny, but she towers over these women. Like these women, I was like, I'm literally just going to go and speak at like old age homes now because I looked massive. I loved every second of that.
I had to look for stools. I thought maybe they were like sitting on the floor. I was like, oh my God, how short are these women?
Oh yeah. No, there's no better way to, like, I looked at the picture and I was like, why do I look so good? Like I look gigantic. And that's, thank you, Elliot, for why we want to be around Holocaust survivors. You just figured out the great lesson. Wait, can I just tell you one fantastic story again also? Because the Holocaust stuff. So my friend in LA, we found out and figured out, he was telling me the story. It's so fantastic that one of our friends from college has a shrink who is a Holocaust survivor. And when we found it out, my friend literally was like, wait a minute, you're telling me that this person survived the Holocaust and then once a week you go in and complain about you couldn't find a new Tesla charger? Like that person made it through the Holocaust and you're telling them that, you couldn't get a reservation at Chin Chin? Like, what are you talking about? So if the Nazi conspiracy has done nothing else, it has brought me these absurd Holocaust moments that I could have never in my life anticipated.
All right. Back to I Am Temple Grandin. It is out now. It's part of the Ordinary People Change the World series. Brad, I really do believe it's the best one you've done. I really believe that.
I love you for it, but I also do believe it's because, and you and I have had these conversations off the air. We know what it's like to have to deal in our own families with kids who, have their own, and every parent does this, by the way. We all do this. Every one of our kids has an issue one day that is just particular to them and makes them different than everyone else. And like, again, I never realized it, but this was the book that what you're reading in between the lines of all these books is me just trying to help my own kids when they were going through their own struggles. Like, and we all have them.
Right. No, it's great. It really is. That is out and available now. Brad, as always, I appreciate the time, my friend.